advanced courses starting in 3rd grade, and there's a special school for it, there's a special program in the school, and then that school in the elementary school feeds into the middle school, and that's a special school itself, automatic admission and everything, and then that school feeds into a special program in the high school, and then everybody is with the same people in every high school, or in that high school, and then they graduate and they go off to college.
You must know them fairly well.
Yeah.
What?
You must know them fairly well.
And I don't think separating everybody, doesn't seem very college preparatory to me, because through Gatton, a lot of people think we just are inside of Gatton and we just take classes with each other, but we don't. We take all of our classes amongst the general population. So even in honors college classes, there's high achieving students and low achieving students, and then especially in your huge lectures with 120, 200 people, there's high achieving and low achieving. And I've found that I think once you get out of high school, it's less, the separation is less, because even the low achieving students that are in your major, they're still taking the same classes unless they're in the honors college, and some colleges are a lot more intermingled than others. But I know just at Western, it was cool to see, be in classes with all different levels of students, because a lot of times what society qualifies as a low achieving student will be someone like I'm sitting next to them and they might be lost, but I'm looking over their shoulder and they're drawing this like elaborate thing all over their notes, and I'm like I could never do that. So I just think that the lack of like understanding between the two groups in my old high school was so huge. The gap was like ridiculous, and I think that a part of that is just the bias that a low achieving student isn't also a talented student in any right. So I think that that's something that isn't good in a lot of the
At the same
public
time,
school
though, I
settings.
kind of like that all of my, because I'm in a magnet program too. It's called like the Academy, and I have 3 Academy classes out of my 6 classes. And I feel like if there were some of the, like if it were opened up, no, that's not the right word. If there were some of the students who are taking general classes in my Academy classes, they wouldn't be as special or as helpful as before, because we're all kind of like on the same page, and if there were students who didn't understand, the teacher had to explain more, we wouldn't be able to move at as fast of a pace. So it's a problem, and I don't know.
I think the question, but you're talking about is an important question. I'd like to ask that to all of you. Do you think that, it seems like we all have experience with some kind of a track program. Do you think overall that is good for our public education system, or like what merits does it have, and what,
Quick thing before,
if you could change something about that, what would you change?
Quick thing before we start answering, this is probably the last question we have time for, so just keep that in mind.
To that, I think the track system itself is a good idea, but the mobility needs to be fixed. I know for a fact that at 5th grade on, I was identified as gifted, and through that in 6th grade, I was put into Excel classes rather than normal classes. And honestly, from that day on, I was in the Excel classes, and every other kid that I went to elementary school with was in these general classes. And it just kept the same way. And there are kids that were supposedly gifted in elementary school and identified as upper level kids that in reality in high school, and when it came to bigger, more in-depth critical thinking type things, they kind of dropped the ball and got D's and F's and things, where kids that were in general classes were excelling greatly. So I think overall, the track system is a good idea, but the mobility needs to be fixed.
Because otherwise I think
that we can challenge ourselves at Knox Central, and then also you all to do, is to not only ask students to come to things like this who may not be in those advanced classes, but to ensure that they are there, and also on your side of things as well.
And I think one of the biggest problems with the track system, especially in my old county, we have a pretty diverse school system in Hardin County. I'd say it's probably like 60-40 type deal, so it's pretty good. But in the lower, in like elementary school and such, there are a lot less minorities and lower income students that are, you know, seen as gifted and tagged as gifted at a younger age, and that's a trend across the board. And then, you know, as we grow older, looking around, it's like, I know, I have friends, I know they're not able to do the work. It's like, it doesn't click to me why, like, I know I was selected and my parents had to beg to get me into some of these gifted things because people tagged me as non-gifted, like, and now I'm thinking, like, you all are all ignorant because I'm gifted now, but, like, I know, I have tons of friends that are like that, and it's because, you know, they either didn't have that parent to go in and stand up for them and say, hey, you know, my child is gifted. And I think by, you know, selecting these things so early, a lot of these kids get on these tracks, and then I feel like it would be hard to tell yourself that you can become a high achieving student if, one, most of the people around you aren't motivated and they're not trying to succeed, and two, if there's not, you know, you don't have the ability to, you know, break the glass ceiling and do better. So I think that a lot of times some students that should be with the higher group kind of get left behind because they're not early identified.
I think that one last comment and we can end off.
Oh, well, I wanted to ask a question, because we talked about culture and we talked about low achieving students. So here in Eastern Kentucky, there is a big drug problem. And do you guys notice that, whether it's in the home or in the students' personal lives, if they're blazing up in the bathroom or whatever, but how that impacts student achievement in the classroom and college and career readiness?
If Tracy were here, she would answer that question, wouldn't she?
Yes, you
She wouldn't have to say anything either. Just by being there, Tracy comes from a background that's very representative of the problem you point out. And because she has a personality that's conducive to this, and because she has teachers that support her, she's doing very well. And there are other examples too, it's just, I was hoping she'd be here. But yes, it affects them. No, it's not certain.
One more thing, that just came to my head. How do you think Knox County, the school system here, reflects Eastern Kentucky and Appalachia as a whole? Do you all think you stand out? Do you all think you are similar to other counties, or anything, I guess, in between?
I think we definitely stand out, and I'm probably a little biased, but
Yeah.
I'm just
But certainly
thinking about,
similar.
yeah, I'm very proud of the school and the people that are in it. I'm thinking of all of the students just recently that have signed with colleges, and many of them that has been through some sport.
So sporting isn't, I feel like sometimes it gets a negative connotation here, but in reality, it can really benefit some students.
Yes, because all of those students that signed are also in the honors classes, and they have earned every grade that they've received. So I do think we get, a lot of negative attention, but we have so many good things going on here that it's unbelievable.
Well, we all thank you for your time today, and thank you for being very open with us as well. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
And I'll echo the thank you, and also to Bjorn's point, we do realize that we have skewed
Skewed
examiners
attitude.
and we had skewed students, which is okay. Homogeneous roundtables are sometimes very good and rich, but we know we have a lot of work to do to make sure we reach other kinds of students. And we take what you said to heart, so thank you. And maybe you can help us find some of those students, because we know we need to talk to them. We so appreciate your time. And can you just, we are just starting some of these roundtables across the state. Can you just take 1 second and give this group, since you watched the other interaction too, just a little feedback on facilitation, since you're all teachers as well, and observers? I think that would be really helpful to us. What do you think worked, or what can we refine as we move on?
I noticed some of the students brought questions ahead of time. It's very good. It's to be thinking about some of the things ahead of time, and in the same way also being able to adapt to the kinds of things that you hear, because For instance, you know, we sometimes come in subconsciously or not with certain expectations, certain ideas of what we're going to hear or see. And sometimes what we hear or see in actuality can be very different. So, you know, coming in prepared, but also with the ability to adapt, I think is very important in the discussion.
That's helpful, thanks. I think the opening question that Andrew raised about preconceived notions might be a good place to start always. Any other thoughts, feedback?
I think too, you're obviously an eager group to want to learn a lot, which is not a trait that I want you to ever abandon. But I think that can cause you to move really quickly sometimes. And I think there were several questions that we didn't really get to fully answer because you all wanted to move on to other questions, which is great. But maybe if we narrow the scope of the conversation, that might enable you to get even more in-depth information about one or two specific topics.
Yeah, I would encourage you to facilitate a conversation as much as possible. I think that would make the students, whoever you're talking to, and presumably you as well, feel more comfortable in that situation. And I think you can learn a lot more from having a two-way conversation.
I think it'd be interesting too for you all to intersperse students among yourselves at this type of, so it doesn't feel us versus them.
It would be more
Instead,
balanced.
it's just, you know, somebody speaking could be here or over there or whatever. It's more logistical, but it could help.
That's helpful. And originally, we were hoping to do smaller groups, and we were trying to improvise a little bit, but that's a great idea that we can remember going forward. And the beauty of this is we're prototyping as we go, and we get to experiment a lot, but I love the idea of integrating fully. And again, we thank you so much for your time on this Sunday, and you have to teach tomorrow. So we hope you all stay in touch with us too as we continue through this project and produce real products at the end of the summer that will reflect some of these conversations. And you can follow our progress on Pritchard Committee Student Voice Team on Facebook. So please,
Twitter,
friend
Facebook.
us, and Twitter. Thank you.
And MySpace on there.
All right, thanks so much. Can I just meet with Andrew for one?